Hi everyone. My name's Chris Johnson, and I'm one of the developers on an extension for Hacknet called the Slaughterhouse. The extension was made by myself, Chris, and my partner, Catherine, over about 8 weeks in the lead up to the extension's functionality being added to Hacknet. I thought I'd do a bit of a recording to go through that extension and to talk about the little bits and pieces that were added in there. Also because I have a whole bunch of friends who are interested in what the extension is, but haven't played the Hacknet games, and so I thought I'd record a video to kind of highlight some of the things that were in there just for them as well. So this is kind of going to act as a developer commentary. I'm sure some people could use it as a guide to skip through content, which, if you're here to do that, I'd recommend trying to give everything a shot first and figuring it out yourself before looking at this. So I've downloaded this, so this is the Steam version of the game, and I've downloaded the extension through the workshop, and I'm going to create a new account. So, where are we? Alright, let's get started. So in this extension, you're acting as a volunteer maybe, for a group of kind of animal activists who are looking to explore some incidents that have happened at an abattoir near them. And there'll be a bit of story introduction here. So I think here the whistle that a voice is kind of indicative of animals, but also general different people who don't have a political say in their circumstances. And so for this extension, all the missions that you get received through email. So we're just about to receive an email from Gerald from the group called Project Reality. So let's have a look at that. Okay. Best hacktivist on the dark web right now. Use some tools. So this first bit is just a bit of a tutorial. So we get a note that explains what to do, and a server that we can log into to copy some files that we're going to be using. And I try to include little references in passwords and things like this one here, snowed in. So I'm just going to I've logged into this computer and I've seen a whole bunch of files here. I'm going to run a command called scp to copy those files. Now scp is actually a real command that you can run on different systems. It's usually a little bit more complicated than this, but for this purposes it's a game, and so Matt's kind of simplified it, which is nice. One of the good practices that you should really follow through with on Hacknet is to make sure that you remove any logs that are created whenever you connect to a computer. In this case, I've just gone into that log directory and removed the logs, which you can see here in this terminal. I should also explain a few bits while I play through. So I've just completed this mission to get the files that I need. So you can see up here I've copied SSH crack, FTP sprint, web server worm, and SMTP overflow, and I can actually run those commands now from the terminal. So those commands are useful for breaking into other machines. Okay, so I get my kind of first mission. My first real mission beyond the tutorial. So there's this abattoir run by this group called Jones Meat Co. They've got a poor reputation in terms of the quality control at the abattoir, and there's several reported cases of animal cruelty as well, which is kind of a thing that happens at a lot of abattoirs. So the first mission that we have here, we have to investigate cases of animal cruelty, and we've got some leads as well. But unfortunately, so there's a lead that's tipped off the group to say that something's happened. We have to investigate it. They've given us a IP address, so that's the address of a machine on the network where we can drop any files that we discover. They've got a link to the Jones Meat Co. website, and we've got our goal, which is going to act as a note. So our goal is to break into the network, find incidents of animal cruelty, then upload it to the drop server. So I'm going to close that now because that's taking up memory, and let's have a look at the website. So this is an actual HTML page, and we can see a few different bits and pieces here about them. So they're also, it talks a bit about them, and it talks a bit about some of the courses that they have. Notably, the animal welfare course has got a lot of spots open, which is kind of amusing. So one of the things that you do in Hacknet is when you connect to a machine, you can probe to see what ports are open. And ports are just, what's used to hook into different services, so email or, web server, those kind of things. And I can use some of the tools I picked up before. So I'm going to run SSH crack to break into port 22, which is where the port in which SSH is open on. In this case, I've just got to open one of the ports, and then I can run this command called port hack. And all of this is sort of introduced in the Hacknet, the main Hacknet game, and the DLC Labyrinths expansion. So if I just exit this view here, I can then see the file system on this machine. So there's a home directory, there's my logs, there's a whole bunch of system configuration stuff. So there's not really much here to go on. One thing I can look at though is I can look at the HTML for this website, and in the first part of this mission, one of the things that you have to sort of pick up is this comment at the bottom here, which some websites do if they're trying to hunt for developers or something. They'll put a comment in the developer console, or they'll put a HTML comment somewhere, trying to tip themselves off to developers that are interested in working. So I can connect to that IP address, 176.8.2.89, and boom. And from here I get the website of the company called Smart Software that made the website for Jones Meat Co. And this is going to be my lead into Jones Meat Co. Sorry, I'm a bit nasally. I've had a bit of a cold lately, so I hope you don't mind. So now I can use some other tools. I'll use FTP Sprint, which will break into this FTP server here, and we'll use SSH crack again. And what you'll find is that as we move through the game, these sequences where we're breaking into machines get a bit more intense. We have to start to think about the order in which we run these tools. But since it's the start of the game, it's nice and early. Okay, so we can actually look in the file system here at some things. So home, logs. I could have removed the logs on the previous machine, and the game can be programmed, the missions can be programmed in a way where you're punished if you leave logs. For this extension, I haven't put any of that stuff in there. So there is one thing in this bin folder, which is kind of short for binary. There's a tool called SQL buffer overflow, and that's used for getting into the SQL services. So I'm going to copy that over, and there's a bit of a text file that explains how we can use it. Even please don't steal. Cool. And this time we've got the web folder, which is similar to the last server, but there's a .git thing here. Now you don't have to understand what Git is, but it's a tool that people use to manage versions of their computer software, their programming code, I should say. And if you look through here, you can see that there's an IP address of another machine, which I think we can also pick up if we. Nope. Okay, can't pick up if we do a scan. Okay, so I can just connect to that. So this is going to connect me to the repository where that code is hosted. And now I need to get into this one. So I'll do another probe, and I have to break into 3 different ports here. 22 for SSH, 25 for SMTP, and now I have to use that new tool I found on the file system of the other computer for the SQL server. So I run the SQL buffer overflow command. And so this is all pretty standard Hacknet kind of stuff. Sorry to repeat it if you're already familiar with the game. It's just good to make sure everyone's kind of on the same page. And what I can do here is I can browse different commits to the system. So there's someone called Chris has an IP address 666. That might be me. That might be a reference to myself. And it's just saying there's an initial commit here. So I've added Jacob's unversion work. So what we find is, and then we've got another commit from Jacob, where he fixed the typos, please commit this time. So Jacob is another employee at this smart software company, and he's kind of the story kind of suggests that he's not the greatest employee. He's still getting used to all the tools, and you can see that in some of the messages that he's leaving here, and how some of the things Chris comes in and just fixes for him. So there was, I think we found here that there was a bug. There was some bug in the website, and so Chris has just reverted it to the static website. So what we might do is we might connect to Chris's IP address, which is 666. 4 sixes, not 3. And the reason it's 666 is just a silly reason. I'm a big fan of the text editor. Oh wait. Oh no. Analyze. Oh no, disconnect. Okay, sorry. I should have explained what happened there. So, where are we? Chris's laptop. So if I do a probe, here I can discover that there's a proxy, and I need to overflow that proxy by shelling into other machines. So I'm going to log into this one and set up a shell. And sorry, and I'll do the same here. And then I'll come back to this machine. I'll do a probe, and then I can run overload on these other machines to attack the proxy that's set up here. And then I need to do several commands here. So I'm just going to queue up the FTP one to start with, and I can only run that command. I can really only run that command when there's enough available memory for me to do so. SQL 1433. Just need a bit more. And there's a few different tricks that I've kind of scattered through this game. So, for example, some of the tools that you use to break into the ports, they might take a little while to run down, so you have to kill them preemptively. It's a whole bunch of little kind of sequencing problems. And so now I've broken through all the ports, I've got access, and I've got a trace running on me as well. So I want to make sure that I sort of break in and do what I have to do before the trace runs out. There's one thing with the game though, which is that once I've broken in, I've got the username and password, and so I can just log back in. And I've got a neat little password, command line interface for the win. The one good thing about making stuff for this game is that you can add lots of details like that. So where are we? We've got the website that's been checked out from before, the smart software one. We've got a few other things. So we've got dot files. So dot files is sort of unrelated to Hacknet itself, but it's just some files that I have for a whole bunch of different command line tools that I use. And this is actually taken from an online repository, and I've left the details to that repository in my on my file system here. So you can kind of see some files that exist there. You can see some stuff I use to pull down a version of Vim, which is the editor I use. And the Vim editor I use to edit this extension and to write my code in is actually an improvement of a previous program called VI. And the Roman numerals with VI is 6, which is why my IP address is 6666. 4 sixes. And you've got a little bit of some files from another game I worked on as well. So from a game called Expand. Cool. And what you do, what you can find here is by exploring, you can find these two tools. So you've got Memory Dump Generator and Memory Forensics. So these are in the Hacknet Labyrinth extension, and I'm going to copy them over. You can also see I have a reading list as well. There's a whole bunch of little joke files there. So I'm going to copy these two files, and I'm going to have to use these now, I think. So the mem dump generator will take a dump of the memory on the system's machine, and it will put it onto my local computer. So that's which one's that one? That's this one here. Notice it has the same username as the one I created at the start. And if I view, there's now a file here under memdump. It's called Chris Laptop memdump. And I can use the other tool I just copied down from that server to have a look at what's in memory. Okay, so there's no, and we can look at the images, files, and commands. So if we nothing in images, in files we have this weird thing here, which is actually an example of something called GraphViz that'll create a little pretty pattern. Most people playing won't know what that means, but that's all right. But the interesting thing here is that is this one here. So this is the most recent commands that have been run on that computer that I broke into. So I can see the commit that was made before to the website repository has been, those commands have been run on here. I've cloned out my dot files. To most players, this top part will make little to no sense. But one of the things that you can see here is that I connect to this other IP address. And in this case, I'm going to connect to it here to find out what it is. And this is kind of the flow of Hacknet, which is that you're sort of breaking into these computers and really exploring them. And so, alright. So this machine that I've just connected to is Chris's smart software desktop. So this is the machine that I'm using, well, the Chris person is using inside the smart software company. Now I've got a firewall here. The way to break into those in Hacknet is to run a command called analyze. And analyze will start to sort of decode a grid of strings. I think I can still do... Yeah, I can still do my other commands as well. So unlike a proxy... sorry, I'll run quickly here. Analyze. So unlike a proxy, I can still run the other commands. SQL. So I'm going to make sure. Analyze. So I'm going to break through 5. Oh, do I have enough? Analyze. So I'm just going to continually run that until I can pull out the secret password from here. SMTP 1, 2, 3, 4. Analyze. Web server worm. Cool, I've got that one as well. Alright, that's the one I haven't run so far. And once we once this is sort of restricted down into mostly zeros, we can pull out a word. So I have to scan through here. So NAVIGATO, which is hard to see here, and R, navigator. So if I can do solve navigator, that'll get the firewall, that'll get me through the firewall, and then I can just do my port hack command. So usually this will be a bit more intense, and it sort of ramps up these sequences. Okay, I'm just going to quickly copy a tool called Signal Scramble, and then I'm going to run that command. So Signal Scramble essentially just slows down the traces, and it fills up depending on the amount of memory you have. Alright, and now I can look at this computer. So, look at this, Hacknet guide. No help for plebs. Just kidding, you're great, you can do this. Good luck out there, have fun. The to-do list, a whole bunch of little bits and pieces. Try out this Signal Scrambler program that Red sent me. Cool. Pest deleted by comfortable chairs. Right. Poem. Roll the Dice by Charles Bukowski. Bukowski is fantastic. I thought I'd include his poem in here. I've got the binary. Sweet. Alright. So one of the commands you can run in Hacknet is scan. And boop, as you can see, a whole bunch of nodes just popped up on my graph at the bottom here, which is starting to look quite populated. So from Chris's machine, we can see all the other machines in the smart software group. So this might all seem a bit strange. We are eventually going to get to the Slaughterhouse kind of side of things soon. But for now, we've got to break through this company because they've got some connection to the Slaughterhouse. So we've got Jacob from before. Jacob was the person who had committed some of the code to the repository, and his machine is actually not very secure. There's only one port. Oh, and we'll have a look what's on here. There's a clock command. So here's so there's a clock on here. Okay, that should actually be PM, not AM, so there's actually a bug in Hacknet. Uh, 6.3. Alright. To do. Change password to the one Ella generated for me. Remove clock app that was somehow installed with my Yahoo search bar from Microsoft Edge. So Microsoft is a reference to the original Hacknet, where there was a company called Microsoft based on Microsoft. Don't make commits to company website on Git server. Clone repo, make change locally. So there's some examples of how to do the Git thing. A lot of this is just story stuff. Here is how to make some risotto, which is pinched from the Podesta emails that was leaked through WikiLeaks. Shopping list. A whole bunch of awesome vegan options for things that you would buy. A lot of these things are on my shopping list. So I sort of wanted to indirectly put little details like the shopping list and stuff for each of these characters, so you can build up a little bit of an idea. Oh, look here, there's no meats and stuff here. Maybe, and then you link that to other little bits of the story, such as what's on this thing here, which is I'll get into now. TP21. So there's another computer on this network, which is for IRC, which is an internet chat system. And you can see some chatting with different people at the company. So there's Chris and Jacob chatting about the problem that Jacob had with the repository. There's there's a thing from Lee, who's the boss of the company, which you kind of connect to later, and saying that the client that we did work for last month, so the website work, wants to upgrade the security on their in-house software. And then we say, Ella says, someone else is working there, is this for the meat company? I really don't think Jacob's going to like this. And why wouldn't Jacob like it? Well, Jacob probably doesn't eat meat and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of these things aren't explicitly stated, but it sort of comes through the files in the computer, and for those who are observant, they'll pick them up. And so all the details they need aren't on the wiki. You find out that it's on Lee's phone, and he's going to document it when he gets back. And that Lee's also heading out to get some new company chairs, which is important if you're sitting down all day. So where are we? So let's break into Ella's machine. So I suppose one of the focuses that we wanted to put in this extension was to cover something that was a little bit more serious, because a lot of the kind of story elements in Hacknet, really focused on a very superficial approach. There are superficial stories around hacking, and there's a lot of hacking that ties into activism that's really not covered, and so we wanted to explore that in this extension. So Ella has a file called EOS device scan, and there's some files on Ella's machine. There's a whole bunch of photos which we can't see because we're in a command line terminal. There's a resist file. There's a list of women in tech events that are coming up. And there's a chat log. Okay, so in this chat log we build up a bit more story around Ella and Jacob. So Jacob's asking how we can never find an EOS, which is based on Apple's iOS phones. You can never find an EOS phone in the office to help test the app. And then and what Ella uses is she uses this this binary that we saw before, the EOS device scan, to find out if anyone else in the office has an EOS device connected to their machine. And so she's a bit of a really a tech whiz, and logs into the other people's machines remotely, and then does the EOS scan command, which is something we're going to have to make use of in a second. She also reminds us, she also mentions that the default password is Alpine, which is something that comes through in the original games, but a lot of people will forget that, so we needed a way in the story to remind people that that's the case. Okay, so where are we? We've done IRC, we've done Jacob. What do we over here? ISP server, okay. Internal wiki. Let's do this one. So we've got several different projects. The Brown Lake Quilting Club. Okay. Jones Meat Co. Icebox, which is a, here's a really cool game coming out on Steam sometime. And Art Dealer, a whole bunch of just example things that the company's working on. In this case, there's nothing. You can't break into this machine. There's an inviolability error, which is something that is built into Hacknet, so you can flag some machines as being impenetrable. There's also Lee's server, so we probably need to go into Lee's server to find to get access to his phone to find details about that meeting. But before we do, let's jump onto this IP management system. So this is a thing that was built into the original Hacknet that we're making use of here, and it's a server that manages is managed by ISPs, Internet Service Providers, for routing, and you can use it to reassign IP addresses for different machines. And unfortunately, though, we can't search this unless we're an administrator, so we're going to need to break in. And we need to break 4 ports. At the moment, since there's only 4 available ports, we have to be able to break into all of them. At this stage, we can't break into the HTTPS port, so we're going to have to come back and remember that. So let's remember that, and we'll come back over here for now. And we'll break into Lee's machine. FTP 25. So this time is much faster. So despite it being 90 seconds, it'll actually count down. Despite it being 90, that doesn't mean 90 seconds. You can make this faster and lower in the extension itself. So I'm going to start the signal scrambler so that as soon as I've broken in, it's going to slow right down. And you'll see it will slow down even further once the port hack app finishes up and this takes more memory. So Lee's got some project builds for the apps they've worked on, some job candidates. So there's a few cool things going on here. Funnily enough, we put this other character here called Steve Jobs, or Steve Jobs, who's the first person to find the HTML comment that you found before and to notify them about it. So, some future clients, NeoPals, which is a reference to the NeoPals mission in Hacknet Labyrinths, and Hatland Adventures, which is actually a reference to the game that the developer of Hacknet, Matt, worked on previously. Okay, so there's nothing really on here, but we can run this EOS. We can run this EOS scan. So I need a bit more memory, so I'm going to have to stop the signal scanner and then start it back up. Okay, so that's found this Lee's EOS phone, and we can just log straight into this one because we know the password from before from the chat logs, which is Alpine. Okay, so let's see what's on here. There's not very much. It's just the EOS stuff, and the apps is empty. He's got some notes, to buy new chairs, and to also reach out to the ISP management about reassigning company the IP addresses for company websites. So again, that ties into this server here. So one of the important things with working on something like Hacknet is that you want to build out this world, but you want to make it internally consistent. So if you drop a machine like the ISP one here, you want to make sure that it's referenced in several spots. And that's kind of useful because in Hacknet, a lot of people receive the narrative in bits and pieces. And it's quite possible that people will miss 1 or 2 pieces, which is why you want to make sure the narrative makes sense if someone's seen 1 of the 3 things, or 2 of the three things. And you can also use narrative as a reward as well. So here we go. So they've got some meeting notes. This is probably from the one that was talked about before on the chat. This client was happy with the website. They want a front end for the animal tagging system. And they also want us to review the security of their internal networks. And so the sort of the cattle tagging system they're talking about here is something that's actually really important for managing cattle and for biosecurity. And so this is a thing that actually happens, and in particular in Australia we have quite a advanced cattle tagging system that allows all cattle to be traceable all the way through, pretty much through to the end product, through to beef or whatever the animal is used for, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, so it sort of talks about how that works, and then it mentions at the end here that they're gonna will email more details about accessing the existing system. So now we need to get into the emails for Lee. So that's something else we need to look out for. Possible team building activities. Some of this stuff, some of the software company stuff comes from my actual experience working at a software company. I like this one here. Escape room. Find an easy one. Last adventure hurt team morale. So obviously they didn't escape from the escape room. And so what we can see here is we can see the mail account information, on the EOS device for Lee. So that's lee@gmail.com and lee-best, which is cute. And we can see their resume from the Jobs guy from before. So the email system I use to receive missions is also used to that you can also use to check out other people's stuff. So if I log out here and I log in as Lee with the password lee-best, cool, I should be able to get in. And this person has a whole bunch of emails. So we have an email here from Jobs about wanting to apply at a company, giving this kind of cover letter kind of introduction email. I've got an email here about from Lee, from someone called Red, who's talking about gin and pizza. That's a reference to something that a few people might be aware of. Talking about clients who want mates, a client who's looking to smart software and wants some mates rates, which is a kind of a term usually thrown around in Australia. If you want a discount and you kind of know the person involved, you might ask for mates rates. In a kind of Aussie way, they also said they'll throw in a slab of beer. RE the keyboard life. So this is a reply email. And this is actually based on the Keyboard Life as a mission in the Labyrinth DLC. So I try to hook this stuff into the existing world as well of Hacknet. And this talks about some of my views on keyboards. This is Barbara from the Crafting Club who wants a website and a reminder to buy comfy chairs. And of course the one I've missed, which is the login information here for the cattle tracking system. So the IP address is 180.0. Actually, before I do this, I'll show you something. So I can, for information like this that I find that might be useful, I can go through and I can add a note. So I can be like Lee change capital C in 5, and that'll add up to my list of notes. So there's an easy way to keep track of things. I mean, some players use a keyboard. Use a bit of paper and pen, but this system is supported in Hacknet. You can just add those notes. But since you have less memory now, because the notes is taking some space, you're just going to make it a little bit harder to break in. So there's an interesting trade-off there. All right. So we're now actually starting to get into this system. Okay, so I can't break into this using any of my tools, so I'm just going to have to log in. And I think I can log in. Cool, I can log into the system here. And so we can see the tracking system, which I have to log into again because that system is separate to the machine. So there's the machine and there's the service running on the machine. And here I can see all the cattle that are being tracked. I can see if it's a, Angus, cow. I can see different things about it as well. So what's a good one that's, so this one I can just see a summary. I can see if there's any hormones that have been injected, which lot it's tied to, other information that's kind of useful for being tracked by an abattoir system. So, how much weight is the cow gaining daily, and when is it sent off? What's the number attached to it? And there's also a whole bunch of different things that are assessed in the carcass as well, in the abattoir. And it's important that all this stuff feeds through together. I mean, my position is, I'm not someone in support of, of abattoirs and of the things that go on in there. I'd prefer if we didn't have to have these kind of institutions. But for me, one of the interesting things about researching this stuff was how intricate and sophisticated the systems behind them are, especially the tracking stuff. This is, kind of impressive in a way, but it makes sense because there's so much cattle going through these institutions. So I can also view stuff on this system as well. So there's no real files here or anything. Just the listings of what you can see. So what I might do is I might do a scan, and this is going to show me other machines in the network that this is attached to. So there's the Meatco office, which we can't get into. There's the Meatco CCTV. Now can we get into there? So we need proxy and 4 ports. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we don't have either of the tools to get into here. We can't break into HTTPS or SSL and RTSP at the moment. So we're going to have to go here, and usually there's a little bit of a guide that I've set up to point to the next place to go. And this is the incidents database. So we need to break into here to look at various incidents. So FTP, and we'll do SSH, my favorite too. And Signal Scrambler. Didn't want to make these trace sequences too intense in this game. We could have done it, but we wanted to focus on really investigating, which is something that seems a bit lacking in the main Hacknet game. You're not as you don't have to read through all the details. A lot of the times you're breaking into a computer and finding the password.txt file. In this game, we wanted you to really think about stuff, and you'll start to see this coming out in the next few parts. So there's a whole bunch of incidents listed here, and these are actually based on real incidents that have happened at different abattoirs. Because the abattoirs are just like any other workplace as well. There's a lot of things that will come up. So there was, a protest by the meat workers union here over wages. Unionization is a thing that's very heavily tied to tied to abattoirs in the meat industry, because it's a lot of manual labor. There's a lot of safety concerns. There's a lot of issues there. It's quite loaded. The focus of this extension was mostly on the animal cruelty side of things, but we also, in fairness, wanted to present a complete picture. So just focusing on the one dimension is not ideal. We want to paint a complete picture of the complexity of what's going on here. And yeah, so there's another case of someone, an employee hiding in the toilets during a drug and alcohol test. Of a fight that happened in the boning area. That's usually where you're stripping the carcass meat from the bones, ready to be packaged up and stuff. Some missing pallets of equipment. This is actually quite sad, but there was a case I think in the UK where someone, and a lot of these incidents that are being discussed here are things that actually happen quite regularly. Like if you put into Google like abattoir incidents, I was really shocked to find that a lot of the incidents I was looking up happened in the last year and a half. This is someone. So the knocking box is the device that's used to hold the animal in place before it is stunned. Sometimes people have fallen into these knocking boxes and things haven't gone too well. And then also harassment of hygiene inspectors. So another thing that tends to happen is that you have these authorities that come into abattoirs and they monitor the abattoir to make sure it's complying with health and safety standards. And yeah, so there's nothing here about animals at all. So maybe we'll have a look at the file system. Nothing here. And here we go, incident draft. And this is the kind of the file we're looking for this first mission. And so there's a stunning device that the people in the kill floor area use that knocks the animal out before they're killed, so that they don't feel the pain that comes with slaughter. Right? It makes the whole process slightly more humane, in as much as such a process can be humane. It talks about this worker, who's a fictitious worker, was actually stabbing the stun gun into the side of the calf's head, and this is based on an incident that Animals Australia had got video, or someone had sent Animals Australia a video of this being a thing, and you can see it happening where the person pretty much stabs the stun gun into the animal, and you can see that smoke coming from the gun itself. It's a really concerning footage. This is something that someone should realistically be fired for. But in this case, this incident's just been documented on the server, but not formally documented. And so we're going to copy it off here. There's a really interesting dynamic with... since I've copied this, I'm going to now move it to the drop server, which is part of the mission. So I just go upload, and then I just specify the file, and that's uploaded. What was I saying? Yeah, there's a really interesting push-pull dynamic in abattoirs where they want to do things well and properly, but they've also got the pressure of having to get through so many things. And so that structural arrangement means that people often take shortcuts, or they don't do things ideally. Anyway, so I've uploaded this first incident, and I'm going back to this email, and since I've met the condition of the mission, I'm just going to reply. And now I get the next mission. So just the beginning. So this meat company has put in CCTV cameras into their abattoir, which is actually not the case in most abattoirs. There's I think one or two. From my research, there's one or two that have started to do this. And a lot of this stuff is just done to appease a lot of the animal liberation groups out there. So we're now trying to find some video of the case that we've just looked into. And so one of the things we've done is we've added a new program that breaks into RTSP ports, one of which we saw before. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the video. So we're going to go back to our resource server here, and we're going to log in, and we're going to copy this RTSP crack, which is a new program. Which is a new program that was added just for the extensions. And the place for us to go is to this machine here, the JMC CCTV, which we couldn't break into before because we didn't have the RTSP program. And the other thing we need here is there's a proxy, so we need to do the overloading thing that happened before. That one. Close that. And FTP. Get that queued up, ready to go. There's often the argument from a lot of people in the activist community for animal welfare that if the public could see more into what happened in these places, then there would be a real change in attitude about how they operate. So you can see here I've broken into the RTSP, but the program's still live. It takes a long time to cool down, which is why I just ran a command to kill that as well. And I do my port hack, and I'm in, and it's slowing down. So this is one of the parts of the extension that gets a bit more complicated. So I can see on the CCTV there's a whole bunch of video files that are stored here with different dates and the prefix with different numbers. And there's a reference txt, which is just some notes the system administrator has left. So it just mentions that in that folder all the latest videos have gone, and the naming convention for them is the room ID dash year dash month dash day. And to prevent the machine from running out of space, older videos are archived and stored on a remote machine. So you can think of this like, something like Dropbox, or a backup service as well. Except in this case, they're removed from the CCTV machine. And there's a weekly scheduled job, so something that runs every week on the machine called processoldvideos.bat, which is a script to move it out. And here we put the format for that job, which I'll come back to. So that's the command that's run. But this is a thing where I try to insert a little bit of know-how for technical people. So you can run routine jobs on Unix machine, which are called cron jobs. One of the tools you can use to do that is cron tab, and that's the format as well. So that kind of structure is also explained in the references as well for people who are really interested. So what we see is, and we also see the rooms as well. So this is the reference from before. And so if I get this list up of videos, we can see that, say, CH is the chiller room, or LA is the larage, or MP is the meat cutting and processing, and SF is the slaughter floor, and TR is the tripe room. Cool, and there's also a decipher program which we could have detected if we looked at... Oh wait, no, it's not here. Okay. So we'll just copy this decipher program, which is used in, I think, the original Hacknet for deciphering files or decrypting files. Okay, so what happens here is every now and again this command is run, the script is run where there's 3 commands. So they encrypt using the password safejones to this machine, and they connect to it there and they upload it to that spot. So now we're going to connect 83.2.1.10, and this is like the Dropbox machine. So I'm going to probe into this one, and I'm going to 282.9, change the port numbers here to be tricky. Oops, 12. Yep. Should also say that a lot of the music that we're using was sourced online for free and is all attributed to in the credits. I think it all comes from Kevin MacLeod. So we can see there's nothing really here except for these uploads, and these are all the files that have been uploaded. And there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of files here, and this is partly where the investigatory skills come in. So this is the offline storage machine. I'm going to jump back to my machine and look at that incident draft from before. So it happened on the 23rd of May, and that date's important as well. Sorry, just let me write this down. So 23rd, January, February, March, April, May, 5th. 2017. So this happens on the slaughter floor, so that's SF. And now we have enough information to build the file that we need to copy out. So drop, and the idea here is the list is so long that people won't look through it. So SCP, SF, and luckily the game tab completes, so we know what happened in 2017. Whoops. We know what happened in the 5th, and we know what happened on the 23rd. And so I'm now copying that to my local machine, connecting back to my local machine, and I'm going to run that decipher program, and I'm going to decipher it. This will actually fail because I need to decipher with with the password. Okay. I don't think there's any instructions here about how to do this. But the password that we saw before was Save Jones on the machine. So I think if we do the second argument, it has to be the password, which looks like it's the case. I'm able to decode. Okay, fantastic. Cool, and it gives me a bit of information as well. The target, the encryption header. Now I have what I need to go back to the drop server and upload that footage. I think from reading some of the comments, it seems like the people who do get stuck on this extension get stuck at that point, just because there's a few steps involved. Cool. So we've got another mission. I think there's a few more left. And now we're looking at some the harassment of the Food Safety Authority inspectors. Proof. Okay, so there's some evidence of some harassment. We need to find some evidence of harassment of a food safety employee, and we've been given the password for the office computer, which is Reflex. So we can now go back here, and we go admin, which is the default kind of password, default username for machines, and do Reflex, and now we're in. And we can see all the files here. So email templates. A lot of these are just binary files that you can't actually read. Meeting templates, mail. So we can look at some mail. Operation overview that talks about the different parts of the abattoir and how they work. And yeah, I think that's one of the core management team, and we can see who's involved with managing as well. Alright, so Justine Johnson is the office manager. So mail, we can look at mail. Oh, this is actually one of my favorite bits of text that are in the entire game. Not the situation. So it's describing a bit of workplace sort of sexual harassment by the IT guy, and obviously that kind of stuff is terrible. But I think the way that it's written by Catherine, my partner, is really good. Really captures the frustration in dealing with this kind of stuff and dealing with this kind of harassment. One of the things to point out is that a lot of the workforce at an abattoir is male, especially those on the killing floor and stuff. Where a lot of the packaging jobs and office jobs tend to be assigned to women in an abattoir. Part of that is because there's actually a lot of physical labor involved. So there's a very sort of masculine. Abattoirs are quite masculine in nature, and so there's these kind of little sort of problems pop up. There's also the case of the male dominance in IT and that being an issue as well, which is something we're trying to tap into here. And yeah, hopefully it doesn't tick off too many other gamer people who play as well with their references to Doritos and Mountain Dew. But yeah, and so anyway, we can see her. We get access to her emails. So JMC-Office and Trident, and that's on Gmail again. Cool. Yeah. So we've got an email, a job application for someone who wants to come in. Interesting thing with a lot of abattoirs is that they do hire. They tend to they do hire some people on what are called 457 visas in Australia, because they're coming in from other countries, and so some people work at abattoirs to get to get their work as well. There's also a thing that sort of tends to happen at abattoirs, or sometimes happens at abattoirs, where if some of the people in the local community are really concerned about safety, they'll just hire people, often from overseas, where the safety standards are a little bit lower, and they'll bring those people in because they won't complain about maybe like some security thing with like maybe the saws or knives or something. So this is the hiring practices of abattoirs are also kind of interesting as well. If you're particularly interested in this stuff, by the way, there's a fantastic book that I've started reading after making this extension called Every 12 Seconds by Timothy Pacharat. Really interesting book, goes through a whole bunch of the things I've kind of mentioned that are talked about here in the extension. There's also someone from the, talking about someone being on too long of a lunch break. You get an angry email from, presumably some sort of animal rights activist. So I wanted to kind of present that side as well. I imagine that's a thing that happens because people get very, a lot of stuff is very emotionally charged, and people get very passionate about their activism, and they can boil out into some of this kind of stuff. And company tablet. So this is the next thing that we're looking for here. So there's Sean is got it set up a new tablet, and it mentions here that that Justine has pulled a good joke, setting the password to Sean when his actual name is Sean spelled SEAN. So that's something to be mindful of. Maybe I can add note. So the password is Sean. Probably close the other ones down. So now that I'm in here, let's see if I can scan and see other computers in the network. Fantastic. So I can see Mr. Jones, the boss, JMC Matt, and JMC Sean. So let's see if we can get into Matt. I need 3. 1, 2, 3. Or I can get into Sean. Let's go into Sean actually, because that's what we need information from. Ah, shit. Okay, I'm stuck. I got HTTPS here. I don't have a tool to break into HTTPS. So in this case, I'm going to have to go into. I'll try Matt first. And this is a thing that we do along with this extension, and you see it all the time in Hacknet and in other games, which is that we gate progress to push you in a certain direction. 80 and RTS 554. We're hoping by providing all these small details, it kind of builds up a bit of backstory for the world as well. I think actually with this particular computer, because there's the RTSP thing, we wanted to make sure that people are more inclined to kill that by making the time still tick down. Small detail. Okay, oh, nice. That's all I need. SSL Trojan is actually on this machine. So we just scatter that throughout, and a little bit of a tutorial on how to use it. So to break into HTTPS or SSL stuff, we have to unlock an existing port. So maybe a HTTP port, SSH port, or FTP port, and then use the SSL Trojan once that port is open. And we have to make a reference to the other ones that are there. So W for web, S for SSH, F for FTP, which I always tend to forget. Okay, so floor staff. We've got a whole bunch of names here. I don't know how accurate this is. I think there's probably a lot more work that could go into making this more accurate, but yeah. Morning rundown. So a whole bunch of different bits of information for all the new sections, because Matt is a manager of everyone. Okay. And a lot of this stuff feeds back into things before, like remind the team about using reminding the team about the appropriate use of stun guns. Ties into the previous information. Actually, there's also a few other things as well, like that we try to put in to make this realistic. So, you know, for instance, additional cattle arriving this week due to upcoming holiday. That tends to be a thing that abattoirs run into. Where if there's going to be a holiday, you know, there's lots of things. You know, there's people are consuming maybe the family turkey or something, and so there'll be there'll be a big influx of animals then. So Matt also has an email account, and JMC-Matt and Blade. So let's log out, log in. Matt, BL4D, yep. So we get something from Matt from Shelby complaining about the quotas being really ridiculous and taking a really long time. Some information about boning championships. So there's a lot of people who work in these institutions actually take quite a bit of pride in their work and in their knife skills, and so boning is a thing that happens. And now we get a bit of details about this FSA inspector stuff. So this is from Sean, the other person we need to sort of break into, who has a tablet. And it talks about how they've requested some video from the IT guy, and I'd like you to talk to Mr. Jones before I send it through. I don't think he'll agree with your assessment on the situation. So there's a bit of tension between Matt and Sean here. And there's the new floor staff as well. And this kind of hits into some of the background I was talking about before with how people coming in on different visas, working visas as well. So like in Australia, we sometimes get people coming from Brazil, India, and Pakistan on 457s. So anyway, let's go back to. Do we break into Sean's? 1, 2. No, we didn't. So we're back to Sean. Okay. So let's break into this one. SQL 1433. Now, worth pointing out that the Sean password is for his tablet, and we're breaking into a desktop here. SSL 443-F21. I think that's fine. Nice. Oh, getting more intense. Whew. Some assessment references. So yeah, a lot of the time the carcasses in abattoirs are assessed, based on the color of the meat, the bruising, they can be hung different ways. It's pretty thorough. So read through the rendering material, upgrade software on tablet. So there's like little nudges we put in like that to say, oh, this person's got a tablet. How do you EOS? Okay, I'm just going to disconnect to be safe. Where are we? EOS, yep. If I was really talented, I could try to start the scanner and then quickly start the other tool, but I'd just be safe because I don't want to get game over on here. So his password is Sean. So I can now log in and close and close. So let's actually see a few things here. Okay, so just mail, video. Okay, I'm just going to copy this video because if I'm looking for a video that Sean's talking about, it's probably that one. It's also encoded. So, JMC Sean Mad Cal. Let's check out his email. Company tablet. So this is probably an email from Justine. Pick it up sometime. To be Sean, should be easy to remember. Yep. So this is the Matt, the other guy we broke into before. and talks about the video of intimidation. And he spoke to Mr. Jones, but Mr. Jones wasn't notified by this. And he checked the incident database, and there wasn't one. It's now been added, as we can tell. Yeah. And so he's asking for the video. I think Matt's been hard to work with. And, the idea that we're trying to build up here is that Matt has been particularly hard to work with about this, and is kind of pushing Sean away. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff here about improving the rendering. So there's a whole bunch of animal products that aren't, just the sort of the meat, I suppose, the main part of the body that we're using for, beef or whatever. That are also used in abattoirs. Tongues and skins and things as well. But there's also a process that takes place called rendering, where they convert a whole bunch of those things you would think would be unused, like intestines and stuff, and they boil it. They boil it into things and make tallow. They use they take the hides to make leather. There's a whole bunch of things that go on here. All right, so this is the next kind of bit of information we need from the your friendly neighborhood IT guy. Attached to this email is the video you wanted. It's encrypted as requested. The password is based on one sexy piece of rump. This ties into the sexual harassment thing earlier, where this guy was sexually harassing Justine as well. And so if you're really switched on at this point and have followed the story, you'll get that the sexy piece of rump is Justine. Obviously, just, not just meat, but it also ties in with the metaphor of abattoirs. If you haven't picked it up, though, the other thing that you can do to find this, so we've now got the password, we know, I'll start again. We've now got the password, which is Justine, to decode this, because we've followed the story through. If you didn't know, one way to find that out was to go into here and to do the memory dump stuff that we did earlier. So we allow, multiple ways through this. One of the problems that actually happens is that people, come here, do a memory dump, and on the earlier mission where they're trying to find the password, they don't read through the files. They do the memory dump and they use the password Justine, and they can't decode the file. That was set up as a little bit of a gotcha on our side, because if you ever need to use it, sorry. If you ever need to use a tool, then the game nudges you towards that. The problem that we found with a lot of people playing Hacknet is, they would just, log into a machine and just try everything and kind of brute force it, which is not a really interesting way to play. Really boring. Okay, yep. Commands. So we can see that he's manually run the file. And the password's Justine. And then he's removed the file. So we can decode it, and then we can upload it. So yeah, I think it's always good to put little checks in place to catch people who aren't really paying complete attention. Sorry if you're one of the people who got stuck. Yeah. Whoops, wrong one. I've done the memory forensics, so it's decipher. Yep. Okay, on the right path. And I suppose the other point people could get stuck here is whether this the J is upper or lowercase. Yeah, unfortunately, this is case sensitive, I think. So you can see verify the machine. It's it's coming from. It's decoded. Now we can finish this mission. Home video.mp4. Right, environmental concerns. Yeah, so this is another issue we wanted to kind of cover about the environmental concerns about abattoirs, because besides using a lot of electricity and water, the way they also produce a lot of so the output of abattoirs beyond meat is a whole bunch of waste products that need to be removed. Well, what do you do with a whole bunch of the bits and pieces that you can't use in rendering to make tallow or pet food or whatever? So instead, you need to dispose of that waste somewhere, and even the stuff like the wastewater. And you can't, some of that is flushed out into rivers and things in small amounts. That's safe, but other times it's a whole bunch of different things. And so what we want you to find this time is environmental report. And we've given you the torrent tracker program to help you with that. So I've got that, and the only place that we have left to go is Mr. Jones, I think. Office Jones, Matt. Yeah, okay. Firewall. And 8 ports to crack. Okay, I'm gonna have to focus on this one. Analyze. Web 80. Uh, 21. Gotta make sure I regularly do the analysis stuff in between as well. SQL. Alright, I think I've got this one. Awful. FF. Nice. SSL. 443-F21. Whew. Yeah, offal is the kind of all the guts and intestines and stuff that is inside a cow. It's pretty gross. Alright, we can now view the file system. There's photos, which is this thing we deliberately put in here to kind of humanize. You can't view these photos again, it's just binary. But yeah. But we can access his email. So, Mr. Jones and calling. If you like Aqua, you probably know that's a song from them. So, odor management options. So this is talking about biofiltration systems that you can use to minimize the odors from coming out of the abattoir. Because usually the smell of the abattoir is quite strong. That's why they're located away from a lot of towns. But there's been complaints in nearby towns about the smell from abattoirs. So it's a concern that they have. Feel free to just pause the video, by the way, and read this stuff much more. I mean, yeah. So this is from our friendly neighborhood IT guy, about notifying us that there's foreshadowing that that there's an intruder, and he's set up a system in place to trick. We've managed to track down my IP address, which is in the corner here, and they've placed a trap for us. So, got to be really careful. There's another email about automated boning, so removing the meat and stuff from the bones. This is actually a thing that's happening now, which is abattoirs are becoming more and more automated. And this one here is from the Meatworks Union, talking about different strain that people can have in the abattoir through the work that they do. Usually it's a lot of repetitive motion that's causing this. Okay, so they've set up a trap. Maybe there's other machines I can connect to. And there are. JMC documents and JMC whitelist authenticator. Okay, so there's a thing set up in Hacknet Labyrinths where you can only get through some machines by adding yourself to the whitelist. So the whitelist contains a list of IPs that are allowed to break through. And yeah. So let's proceed. I can't get in here, so I'm going to have to break into this. SQL 1433 22. Oops, RTSP 554. L443-S22. Alright, so there's nothing really on this machine, I don't think. But this list of IP addresses. Nice. And list of the IPs they're allowed to get through. So for example, the only person who can get through at the moment is Mr. Jones, because that's his IP address, you can see there. So I am going to go append, I think this is how I append in Hacknet, 226.52.237.221. Cool, that worked. Alright, so now my IP address is here. Did I get it right? I think so. Nice. Now I can go into the document server, security trap targeting IP address. Oh, snap. Okay. Yeah, so this is the trap that was foreshadowed earlier in the email from the IT guy. So since they've got my IP address, they know that if I connect to my machine, if I connect to a machine, then they can they can set up a trap to target me. So they've kind of shut down Hacknet OS and it's rebooting up now. Which this one usually catches quite a few people off guard. It's a nice little surprise. And so the way that we do this to get past this is we need to get a new IP address. This can happen using the ISP server that we found out from the smart software company at the very start. So all this stuff kind of links together. SSL Trojan 443-F21. So let's search for an IP. Let's search for my IP address. 52.237.221. Cool, that's mine. And assign a new IP. Wait. There we go, yeah. I just started with the same thing. Can I get a really short one? Oh, it's fine. That'll do. So now I could try to go back here into the documents, but the problem is the IP address I added before was my old one. So I need to add a new one to the whitelist, which is another little thing that catches people out. They're like, oh, I'll just go into it and access it now. But then they're like, oh wait, the whitelist server, I need to update my IP address. 239.199. 140, 80, 239, 199. Cool. Documents. Yep, nice. Oops. 6881 and then port hack 106 160 106, that's good. Port hack. Okay. Nice. So these are all the files on the document server that only the boss can add. access. So all the annual reports, the attendance for the different classes, which feeds back to the website before. There's only one animal welfare spot. Animal welfare. Then there's the environmental report as well, which talks about some issues. Essentially the file that we're after, so I'm going to copy that now. But it talks about some of the issues with some of the concerns around this particular abattoir. Again, this is based on examples that have happened in the real world. So feel free to pause and have a read through that. It's something that we added just last minute, so just a few hours before the game launched. Shareholder meetings, PR strategy, political donations. We give to everybody. The meat and dairy industry tend to do that. And yeah, so that's the last thing I need. So I can just upload it to the upload home and environment report. Oh, warning. What you have accomplished is futile. It'll mean nothing. It is nothing. Do you really understand who you're messing with? The meat and dairy industry will continue to exist because it is you who continue to give us consent. Cool. And there's a little message left in terminal, 883.231.9.012. What did I do? I don't know what happened there. I did 231 instead of 213. Anyway, the email says it as well. Then I'm taken to this machine, which is the credits server. And yeah, we can see the credits for the Slaughterhouse. So we thought we'd end with a bit of a message to give a bit of a punch and to remind people that the issues that this is connected to are real world issues. And that some of the things that they might have read when playing the extension, the terrible, the terrible side of things, that stuff exists because people give consent to that. And if people didn't give consent to that, then these kind of institutions wouldn't exist. So yeah, well, thank you for watching this far through or skipping to the end. Hope you enjoyed me talking. I'm sorry about being nasally. Hope that's okay. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. My handle is @Hypernexus. And I hope you enjoyed the extension, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.